Hi, listeners. Welcome back to another episode of the Journey of You podcast. We're so grateful that you're here with us today. Chris and I have another extra special episode just for you.
Obviously.
Obviously, yes. And today we wanted to talk about the small wins. The small wins. Sometimes when things feel like we just having a hard time getting motivated, getting moving, taking action, and we're maybe feeling down on ourselves. Maybe we're feeling like we should, quote unquote, should be doing more, right? Where can we find the small wins and what does that, the simple wins, what does that help us with? And how does that create space to move the energy that we're feeling? And how do we give ourselves that compassion to allow?
This is Joy, the Journey of You podcast. We're your hosts, Devin,
Chris,
and Felicia.
And we're here for joy.
This podcast is your permission slip to reconnect to your inherent joy and to embrace it.
Let's fill up the cosmic joy pot together as we dive into today's episode.
So yeah, when we feel low on energy, everything can feel so hard and heavy, and we feel like we have to push ourselves and make things happen. And I feel like, especially in the past few weeks, this has been such a theme in everybody's life, right? Energy has been so intense, and it feels like our systems just need time and space to digest what's happening in the world, what's happening globally. And it's just so intense, but we expect ourselves to have that same level of energy and productivity and extrovertedness every day of every week. And if we don't, what happens is that all of our limiting beliefs get amplified and we really start to judge ourselves and become really our worst critic, right?
I don't know. I've never experienced that.
No, me either.
That self-talk of that. Chris, you're spot on with, and that what I wanted to touch on was when you said that extrovertedness.
Mm.
So when you present yourself to your community, to your society, to with your everyday engagements in a certain way, when you're feeling high energy, the expectation that even when we're feeling low energy, we're feeling tired, we're feeling lethargic even, is like we somehow have this expectation that we're going to act the same way or be the same way that we would when we have high energy. And then we get frustrated and angry with ourselves for not being able to do the big things that we plan to do, it's all the grandiose plans that we have for ourselves, right? And then we become our own worst critics. Like, gosh, I can't believe I can't even get up to do this, or I can't deliver on the projects that I said I was going to deliver within the time frame I said I was going to deliver them. And I'm guilty of this too. It's that productivity trap. And
it's also like, everybody says you need to post XYZ many times, and you want to share this high vibe energy, right? And if you can't, because you're just processing so much crap, then like, how are you meant to conjure up this high vibe energy to create the posts that you actually want to be sharing,
and that would actually resonate with the people that you want them to resonate with? Right. And you and I have talked about this, and Devin as well, in the podcast, is when we come on this podcast, we come in as real and as authentic as we can absolutely tune into. And so that we're not like phoning it in or faking it. Right. Exactly. And so sometimes when we feel that low energy, and yes, we're talking about all the things that are happening in the world and globally, and like what's happening within our lives to feel this way on our individual scales as well. And then when you're phoning it in, or posting anyways, even when you don't feel like posting, it just comes out differently. And it can be fake.
Yeah, and it creates a disconnect because you're disconnected from your authenticity, right? And you're faking it, and it comes like, especially to people who are sensitive to it, it will come out as fake. Whereas if you would just share what's true in that moment, it would take such a pressure off, or not share at all, right?
Or not share at all. Yeah.
If
and choose who you share with, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's for me, I'm the type of person that shares everything all the time, no matter like who it is, if I know them well or not, right? So I had to learn how to be real with what I'm experiencing. But then also, like, why we're here today is to talk about that realness and talk about that authenticity, and then giving ourselves that grace and compassion to allow ourselves to be within what is happening.
Exactly. Absolutely. And because, you know, we can be in that space of judgment, of judging ourselves, and create that inner tension that makes that inner critic come alive and rear its big head, right? But instead of wallowing in our not enoughness, we can equally become compassionate with ourselves and just notice that we are humans. We're living creatures. We're not machines, and we do need breaks. We need breaks to process things. We need breaks to re-energize, to collect our energy. And when we're in that place, we can change perspective. We can tune into the higher and into gratitude and love, and just have a completely different experience of the same situation, right? You can either beat yourself up or be in compassion, and nothing changes on the outside, but you feel completely different. And it's like, it almost breaks my mind, you know, my brain, to see how different the experience turns out to be then.
It breaks my mind regularly as well. And the tricky part is to have that awareness, like when we're in that downward spiral of, okay, I feel low energy. Oh my gosh, I can't even get up to fold my laundry or wash my dishes or go grocery shopping, or right, the day-to-day things that you know would have to get done. And it becomes this self-sabotaging cycle of, I'm talking to myself like this, thus I'm feeling worse, and then thus I don't want to do it more, and then I berate myself some more, right? And when we switch, when, like Chris said, nothing changes on the outside. And it takes practice. It takes practice to shift into compassion. But it's so, so, so important, because we have to be our own self-love caregivers in this time as well.
I was just going to say cheerleader.
Cheerleader, yes. And by blanketing yourself with that compassion, with that self-love, like Chris mentioned in the last episode, right? Like that love of that blanket of just wrapping yourself up in this coziness, to allow yourself to have that low energy, to be real and authentic with yourself. You can actually start to shift without even actually doing anything else. It naturally starts to move that stuckness that you're feeling and create space for liveliness, for vitality, right? But we have to let ourselves be in that space, give ourselves time, give ourselves compassion and love. And then it's like new breath, new air starts to come in.
It actually, the picture I just got was that you kind of put your system into, like, you plug into the socket when you wrap yourself into that blanket of love. It's like you re-energize your system through that, right? And it is that visual, but it's also the mindset shift of, I am choosing to stop judging myself. Because I mean, it has zero positive effects if we judge ourselves. Like, it doesn't make us work harder. It doesn't help us do the dishes faster with more motivation or sooner.
It just makes me angrier while I'm doing them.
It makes it all worse. Like, self-judgment, yeah, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't create the end result we want to create, right?
Yeah. And like, we're not saying that this is automatically easy, And yet what's interesting is by having that awareness and then choosing that intention of self-love and compassion, we don't even have to actively be like, yep, I love myself now, right? You just set that intention of like, okay, how can I be graceful with myself? How can I give myself compassion in this moment? And as you start asking those questions, right? Chris has also addressed this in the podcast, your reticulator activating system is going to start working on that in the background. It's going to start working on how can I give myself more compassion in this moment, right? And as we said, we come in with what's going on in our lives and also the themes of what we notice around us. And for me, I'm just starting to come out of this funk that I've been in for 2 weeks, a week and a half, month. Like, I don't even know how long it's been because it feels like a lot. It's been heavy. I've been laying on my couch watching a lot of TV and meanwhile judging myself and then trying not to judge myself and trying to give myself compassion. And it was hard to even do one thing a day. And if I was working a regular job at 9 to 5, like I would have had to go to work. Right. And so when I'm saying one thing a day, I'm like, I'm not even going to work. I'm just trying to get up and like go grocery shopping or host a yoga class or, like do things that kind of move some of that stuckness that also help me understand, like, even if it's something that's not like in line with creating that life I have or that big picture stuff, right? Like hosting a yoga class is in line with that big picture stuff. But even something as simple as, okay, folding my laundry, it's amazing how much energetic space that can create. Okay, I was able to do one thing, right? And I was able to do it in such a way that it got my body moving. It got me off the couch. Like, I know that this is really we're talking simple wins here. But
yeah, but it's true.
It shifted some of that, the frustration, the lack of movement, and even just by moving created movement of energy.
I love that story. And I had actually planned on sharing something else, but it's so interesting how synchronistic we are because after I shared in my last episode of, how I was in hospital and I was on sick leave for several weeks now. So I had the official permission slip to just lie on the couch and do nothing except watch Netflix therapy. And that's what I did. And I got so lethargic. And at the same time, like when I do that, when I give myself, because it was guilt-free in that moment, right? I was like, I'm not supposed to do anything. Like I could if I wanted to, but I'm not supposed to even, right? And when I gave myself that guilt-free space to just be, and I know that my body was going through a lot and my mind was processing a lot, and there's a lot going on in the world and there's a lot going on everywhere, right? And I just gave myself that space to rest. And as I did that, I felt like the energy collecting in me, and it felt like at some point there was like little, we in German we call it the bees in the bum, like when you get antsy, right? Ants in your pants.
Bees in the bum.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
And it's like the energy gets so intense at some point that you want to create, you want to do something, right? And
yes,
and that happens when you allow yourself to just process and to just be and to just let it be okay to not have energy, to not be marketing your products, and to not be like, I took a complete leave of coaching as well. Like I did nothing, really literally nothing. And I'm so blessed that I have collaborations that carry the torch while I'm out. Likewise, I carry the torch when everybody else is out, right? But yeah, that just makes a huge difference.
That's kind of funny because that shifts a little bit of everything. The difference between mine and Chris's experiences, okay? Chris gave herself permission, and she had to physically stop moving. Whereas mine was not obvious, right? Mine was, I didn't have a health issue that I knew of, right? I don't know of any physical ailment that I had. I was just feeling tired and low energy. And I did not give myself permission to rest because I had no quote unquote excuse. So it took longer for the energy to come back. It took longer for me to have self-compassion.
And you know why?
And to recharge.
Because do you know why? Because you had a huge resistance.
Correct.
Against it. So the resistance is what burnt up the energy that would have been collecting had you been resting guilt-free. Right?
Correct.
Because like that, you just suck it all up. But when you have the guilt and the shame and the judgment and all of that, it kind of eats the energy away, and it takes longer for it to build up again to a place where, like, yes, I want to explode. Yes,
and
I want
now
to do
I can
this.
move.
Yeah.
Wait, and that was why, because it took longer in that way, then I had to make myself do one thing at a time.
And
because I didn't let the energy build. I didn't let myself recharge with all my cells.
So much sense.
Even though I was doing the exact same thing as Chris. I was laying on the couch. I wasn't watching Netflix, but I surely was watching TV. And it took longer for me to come back to compassion, self-love, and then recharge. So sometimes maybe that small win is letting yourself actually rest. That's another win.
Absolutely. And I feel it can be a combination of both, because I mean, while I was resting, I also, like, it frustrated me, right? Because I was being forced to kind of not do anything, right? So I too had to do some small wins to, like, keep my happy place, And so it's a combination of what can I do with love for myself and others, and that can be rest, right? But that can also be something active.
And what I love about that also is, let's say I give myself permission to rest. And because of that, now I have some energy to fold laundry. Now I have some energy to, and so while I'm still in a longer period of rest, I'll give sparks to do
exactly
things,
exactly
right? Because it's not black and white here. It never is black and white, right? No. And there's this deep sense of listening and understanding, and then asking, what do I need in this moment? And then being able to take what you need, whether that be rest, whether that be action, or whether that be big grandiose things like taking a hike, or walking the Camino Trail, all these things.
Yes.
Right. And how do we come back to that self with love, with compassion, with seeing resistance and moving through. So with that, let's take you into a little guided exercise where we can experience this in our own selves and from our own perspectives, and then we'll come back. So if you're in a safe place to do so, wiggle around with your bum a little bit, get nice and comfy.
Get the bees out.
Get the bees out of the bum. That's the cutest thing. I'm going to use that. Yeah, let yourself settle in this space. Take a nice deep breath. Feel yourself coming into your body. Allow your presence to come into the space right behind your eyebrows. And then let's step into a scenario where you're going to go do the dishes. Now, not a task that is necessarily in soul alignment, right? But it is something that we likely need to do. Okay. And so I'm coming into the kitchen. I see all the mess of the kitchen. It's driving me nuts. It's making you feel like irritated, irked. Why has no one else done this yet? Gosh, why are there so many dishes? It smells a little bit. Okay. And now you're starting to do the dishes. You're turning on the water and you're doing it while asking these questions. How come no one else did it? Why am I always the one? How did the dishes pile up so much? Gosh, is no one helping? Notice how that feels. Notice where you feel it. Let that anger build up a little bit. And now let's take a deep breath. Sigh it out if you need to. And maybe even take a little eraser and wipe away that scenario, right? Or shift it off to the side. Okay, and now we come into the kitchen. We still see the dishes there, okay? And you come and you step up to the sink. And you notice there's food still on some of the plates or remnants of that. And I just notice my feet and how the weight is distributed on my feet. Maybe I feel balanced in all four corners of my feet. And then I start to turn on the water and I let it get warm. And I feel that warm water running over my hands. And just notice, the water actually feels quite soothing in this moment. And you prepare your soapy water and you think, wow, we do have a lot of dishes. How amazing is it that I actually have dishes to wash? How amazing is it that I had food to eat? How amazing was it that I had enough food to feed with my family and share that meal with my family? Wow. Can I have gratitude? How much gratitude can I have for this running water in my house? And as the dishes begin to get cleaned and you feel that tension start to ease and space starting to be created because the dishes are being cleaned, and yet we get to do dishes. From that space, I invite you to take another deep breath here. And maybe sigh the breath out the mouth. And gently blink your eyes open.
That was absolutely gorgeous. And very interesting because in the first scenario, I actually felt tears of anger and frustration. I was so mad. Oh my goodness. And like I felt so constricted and so upset. Like, why? Right? And then in the second scenario, I had, oh my God, my heart opened so wide and I had tears of gratitude in my eyes because I was like, wow, we are so blessed. And we don't even realize it. Like, we are so blessed and so incredibly many things, and we move through life without knowing, completely oblivious and getting upset about the tiniest things. What a waste of energy. You know? You know, it could be so easy and so full of love and so good. And yet we're always focused on the lack automatically, and on what's missing and what's not going as we want it to, instead of just releasing that resistance, right? In the second scenario, there was zero resistance. It was the exact same task, right? But there was nothing. It was just like, oh my God, I'm grateful. Can I do more? You know?
And it's funny because even as we sometimes that switch feels hard to flip, right? And like we said in the beginning of the episode, like nothing changes but the inner dialogue, but the inner questions, but the choice and how we choose what lens we're seeing this from. And so just by setting an intention, how can I open up to more love and gratitude in this moment, and self-compassion, right? How can I shift my focus to what is going well instead of that lack, right? What does that invite in?
And it's just that question. It's simply like when you get angry or upset or frustrated, it's just asking that question, like, how can I see this from the perspective of love? Like, you know, how can I be loving for myself and others in this situation, and be compassionate? And that's it. And then see what the answer brings, you know? Yeah.
We would love to hear what that felt like for you, that experience. Were you able to tune into it? Because Chris, you know, I was even amazed at your ability to like really dive into each scenario, so much so that you were feeling those tears of anger and then tears of gratitude, like so starkly in such a short span of time.
Yes.
And so listeners,
without even doing the task.
Without actually doing the dishes. And so listeners, we'd invite you to comment and share with us how that experience was for you. Were you able to tap into it? Maybe not as extreme as Chris, right? But maybe at least even a spark of that would be so beautiful.
And because when you are able to tune into it like that, it becomes like an embodied experience, even when you do it in your mind. Like your body becomes accustomed to this difference and will be able to make you notice and help you become aware, instead of being so identified with that frustration and how terrible life is and everything and blah blah blah. Like we can really be swimming in our own soup in that, right? But when we experience, like physically experience these differences, like through guided processes like these, then we like, oh, our body remembers, right? And it wakes us up and says, hey, you have the opportunity to choose right now. Like this is an opportunity. Every time you get triggered, this is an opportunity to step into love, right?
Yeah. And we invite you to do that throughout your day, every day. See where you can shine some compassion. And then ask questions. Where's the opportunity?
Where's the love?
And that's what we have for today's episode, folks.
I was just going to say exactly that sentence.
No, you were not.
That's what we got for you. We hope to see you again next time, and hope you have a lot of opportunities to practice. Celebrate every trigger.
And we'll see you next week.
See you then. Bye.